Humility is the topic of the morning, the lost virtue, as I call it. Jesus tells a story about seating arrangements at a dinner party. And the upshot, at least as I read it, is don't grab the best seat at the best table, because you might get bumped by a more important guest with more status than you. But if you take the humble route and sit at the table near the swinging door that leads into the kitchen, you might be called forward for a better seat, something like that. Couple questions. Anybody ever take a course on humility? Thought so. A workshop, seminar? Can anyone claim a degree in humility? Just a Bachelor of Arts, perhaps. I'm not looking for a master's degree. Is there a doctor of humility in the congregation this morning? Is there such a book available with the title of Humility for Dummies? Well, your lack of responses suggests to me that humility is a virtue in low demand. Colleges and universities and business schools, to my knowledge, do not offer courses on the history of humility from the Renaissance to the present. While I was in seminary back in the late 70s, I had to take 3 semesters in Greek, 3 semesters in Hebrew, and I wasn't required to take even a half hour in humility. Wall Street is not likely to report that humility gained an eighth or plummeted to record lows. Humility never makes the front page of the New York Times, not above the fold or even below the fold, except at the funeral of Jimmy Carter. There was a lot of humility there. William Bennett, a name you might recognize, who was, Secretary of Education for the Reagan administration, wrote a massive work in 1996 called The Book of Virtue. I read it. It's 2 inches thick, 900 pages. Chapter headings include self-discipline, compassion, responsibility, friendship, work, courage, perseverance, honesty, loyalty, faith, but nothing on humility. Humility may well be a lost virtue. And there's a reason for that. Nobody gets ahead by being humble. Most people would have a hard time, I imagine, even defining humility. Is it self-deprecation? Is it meekness? Is it modesty? Is it lack of pride? Is it unassertiveness? Is there actually any bankable value in striving for it? Jesus said, as we heard, as Virginia read for us, those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. I don't find a whole lot of meat on those bones. Our English word humility comes from a Latin word, humus, H-U-M-U-S. It's good soil, right? Rich in nutrients. Never call humus dirt, by the way. That would be an insult to humus. In our backyard, we feed a Rubbermaid compost bin. We call it the Beast. And we feed the beast banana peels and apple cores and greens that have been in the back of the refrigerator for a few weeks too long. and shredded newspaper and twigs and organic stuff like that. And all I have to do is I have to turn the pile once a week. And in the hot summer of this past year, all that organic matter turns into precious black gold. Frederick Buechner, the late Frederick Buechner, said, "True humility doesn't consist in thinking ill of yourself, but of not thinking of yourself much differently from the way you are apt to think of anybody else." Now that definition holds for me some appeal, and it got me to think, how do I live as a humble person? What does humility look like for me? And I riffed on that theme this past Thursday, and I came to a place that has become sort of comforting for me. I entered the sanctuary, and I thought about riffing on humility by standing here, but that seemed too pretentious. I thought about riffing on humility by sitting in one of the pews that you're sitting in, and that didn't feel too comfortable. So I sat in the place that I've come to know as the Holy of Holies. It's the booth back there in the corner, right where Lewis is sitting. I sat there for an hour, and I riffed on this idea of humility, and I came up with a dozen personal understandings of humility. And I call it my humble dozen. And I'm going to share them with you, not because you necessarily want to reflect these, but you might choose to understand humility in a different way. So here goes. If I choose humility, then I don't interrupt people when they talk. Listening acknowledges the worth of others and gives value always to what they have to say. If I choose to be humble, then I'm not going to be quick to judge people by what I've heard, but by what I've experienced of them. If I choose humility, I first ask questions of people rather than launch into telling them what I think they most need. Number 4, if I choose to be humble, it isn't necessary for me to win every argument or to have everything done my way or the highway. Number 5, if I choose humility, then I should be a person who gives out more compliments than criticisms. 6, if I choose to be humble, then I better cut people a lot of slack when they disappoint me, because I don't always know what they've been dealing with. Number 7, if I choose humility, then I'm going to be quick to say thank you when someone has shown me kindness undeserved. 8, if I choose to be humble, then I don't care to be known for the vacations I take or even the square footage of my house. What I want to be known for is what I give away. What I give away. 9, if I choose humility, then I don't need to judge others by their worst failures any more than I want to be judged by my worst failures. Number 10. If I choose to be humble, then I need to pledge allegiance not to the bottom line. I need to pledge allegiance to those who stand at the end of the line. If I choose humility, number 11, then I can find comfort in knowing that God is not in the business of protecting me, but is far more invested in sustaining me. Number 12. If I choose to be humble, then I have to get rid of the lingering suspicion that some lives are more important than other lives, and who I stand with is far more important than any creed or religion I stand for. If any of those pique an interest in you, I made a copy of these, and they're on a slip of paper in the entrance to the church as you leave. Feel free to take those. So I need to end, and I'm doing this somewhat hesitantly. I need to end by telling you of someone who lacked humility. The founder of Focus on the Family, Dr. James Dobson, died 10 days ago. His influence stretched from the Reagan administration to the current one. At one point, his weekly radio broadcasts reached 6 million people a week. Dobson dared a generation of parents to guard their homes against what he claimed were the corrupting cultural influences of liberalism, best personified in the acceptance of homosexuality. Dobson was a public figure bereft of humility when it came to what he preached. Never plagued by self-doubts, never allowing room for a more expansive understanding of human sexuality from his books and radio broadcasts, people became emboldened to see LGBTQ persons as the enemy and as dangerous and as a threat to society. I served a church in the west side of Chicago, in the western suburb. Half the congregation were ardent Focus on the Family fans. Dobson insisted that conversion therapy was the will of God for gays. And the founder of Focus on the Family actually turned family members against each other, and his radio and publishing empire baptized cruelty by calling it tough love. Tough love. Tough love. Well, if there is such thing as a chorus of angels that reside beyond the grave, and I don't pretend to know what lies beyond the grave, but if there's a chorus of angels beyond the grave, it's my hope that one of those angels presented the founder of Focus on the Family with a rainbow stole. I say that. And then, as I said, I don't know what lies beyond the grave, but again, if there's such a thing as mansions, I hope his roommates include Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo and James Baldwin and Harvey Milk and Jane Addams and British mathematician Alan Turing and Marcia P. Johnson and Eleanor Roosevelt and rock musician Freddie Mercury and astronaut Sally Ride, among countless others. That would be sweet. Alcoholics Anonymous has a saying, thank you, Lori, for reminding me of that. Humility, don't leave home without it. May it be so.